About tonight's show because we're switching gears a little bit. We are going to talk about some serious issues, which is human trafficking. We have Jessica Evans here in the studio tonight to shed some light on that, not only around the globe or domestically, but also right here in Indiana. Stay tuned for the Tahlia Speaks Show. Like I told you guys, we have Jessica Evans with Purchased on the show. Jessica, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule, I'm sure, to come on the show today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, just for the people out there that don't know about Purchased, your organization, give them a little brief overview of what you do.
Yeah, our mission is to empower the community to end modern-day slavery, and we do that at a couple of different ways, through education of the general community, just how the community can be part of the solution, and then also through education and mentorship of young girls who have been trafficked here in Central Indiana.
Right. So as you guys can see, as Jessica said, it's happening right here in Indiana, and it's happening right under our noses. And, this was first brought to light to me a few months ago when I saw a video on WTHR that basically was about human trafficking taking place here right in Indianapolis. And I want to share that video with you guys before we get into our interview with Jessica. So we're going to go ahead and cut to that.
Authorities say human traffickers snatched a 16-year-old girl right off of a local street, planning to use her in a prostitution ring. Investigators say her captors held her, assaulted and abused her until a chance moment brought her freedom. Good evening, I'm John Stair.
And I'm Andrea Moorhead. This is a very difficult story for us to tell tonight, including the details and, of course, the images. But this is a story that we need to share with you tonight. Human trafficking is happening in and around Indianapolis. In fact, this latest case just this past weekend.
13 Investigates reporter Sandra Chapman explains how it happened, how she was freed, and why the threat is still out there.
This is where a nightmare weekend began for this 16-year-old Indianapolis girl. She and a group of teens were all forced off an Indigo bus at 42nd and Post Road after a disturbance broke out last Friday night. She began walking home when a young man pulled up and offered her a ride. She took it, but never made it home. The victim was reportedly raped at this Motel 6 near 21st and Shadeland. Police say this man, 24-year-old Kevin Gaines Dukes, then met up with a second suspect, Maisha White, and the two purchased lingerie for the girl before driving to Cincinnati. There, White reportedly showed the girl how to prostitute without getting hurt. The next day, they headed to Nashville, where White took pictures of the teen and posted them on Backpage.com, a site known by solicitors and investigators for sex trafficking.
Backpage actually assists us in investigations. That's where we find our victims.
The 16-year-old told police her captors made $1,000 that weekend, forcing her to have sex with at least 10 men. The teen said she had been crying and asking to go home. She had been texting messages like police to her father and sister. According to the federal complaint, Gaines Dukes then texted the father, demanding $25,000 in ransom, telling him, "Get the money, no police." He also reportedly exchanged messages with the victim's sister. She asked him, "You want to traffic minor-age females and make them prostitutes?" "Yep," said the suspect, "and she brings in the bank. I love her, and she said she loves you a lot, but bye. That's all you will remember about her, and they're not going to find her alive," he said. "Why would you kill your moneymaker?" typed the sister. "I can get another," he said. The texts were traced to a Nashville motel. By the time police arrived, the trio was gone. But surveillance video and a vehicle description eventually led investigators to the suspects near the Outlet Mall in Edinburgh. According to federal records, White says Gaines Dukes was worried about getting into trouble with human trafficking and that he was going to go away for life. Now tonight, that 16-year-old is safe. Both suspects were arrested on charges of kidnapping, confinement, and abduction for interstate commerce. Both are now under federal hold in the Marion County Jail. Investigators got a search warrant for the vehicle just yesterday and discovered condoms, motel receipts, room keys, cell phones, and some of the victim's personal information stating she was 16 years old. Now tonight, the FBI is not commenting on this case, but investigators tell us that this is an example of just how quickly teens can find themselves caught up in something like human trafficking.
It really is unconscionable that it's happening right here in central Indiana.
That's right, and it's a good thing that law enforcement has much more attention to it so they can address it.
All right.
So as you guys see, that video was extremely disturbing, and you know, we hear about these things on MSNBC, CNN taking place overseas in other countries, but little do we know, as I stated before, that it is taking place here domestically and right here in Indiana. Jessica, when you see a video like that, how does that make you feel?
It's sad. Even working in this field for many years, it's still heartbreaking to think that people would take advantage of someone else for profit like that.
Right. So about your organization, Purchased, tell us a little bit about what made you want to get involved with this organization and shed light on this situation.
Yeah, I took a trip to Nepal. I think we all think, when we think of human trafficking, we think it's overseas somewhere.
Right, exactly.
And I did too. And I went to Nepal. I was introduced to human trafficking, and my heart was just broken. I was an elementary school teacher and just kind of had a soft heart for kids. And meeting girls over there who were my age and younger that had been trafficked really broke my heart. So I came back from that and knew I kind of wanted to do something about the issue. Started learning more about it and learning that it was going on here as well, and just wanted to tell people. I mean, I was an educator, so it made sense that that would be my platform, as education. So that's how Purchased evolved. We started as an awareness concert in 2008. Just wanted to get people together and tell them about it, and it has kind of snowballed and taken shape from there.
Right, and evolved to something wonderful and very informative that honestly don't know what human trafficking is or what the definition is. Why don't you just go ahead and just educate them on that?
Yeah, so human trafficking is really just the illegal trade of people by means of force, fraud, or coercion, and for labor or sexual exploitation. Someone else is profiting off of someone else's exploitation. And what I like to really zoom in on is the force, fraud, or coercion, because a lot of times, and in that video you saw, sometimes we think it's just kidnapping and someone's snatched off the street, and that happens sometimes. But really more often than not, the girls that I work with, it's more of someone who's posing as their boyfriend or a family member or a father figure, someone that they're close to and gains their trust, and then starts expecting them to do other things, and then they're in a situation where they're being trafficked and they didn't know how they got there.
Quick break, and you hit on Indiana statistics. So when we come back from break, we're going to dig a little deeper into the Indiana numbers with human trafficking, and you know, just talk about that a little bit more. We'll be right back.
When I woke up this morning, is it really true what I'm seeing on the news, baby? What I'm really about to do, baby? Can you please slow down? Can you please show the proof, baby? Yeah, I've been waiting for a long time. Got all these drugs in my body, got me feeling so new, baby. Ooh, baby, I know I'm driving you crazy. Soon as they leave, I'm buying more juice, baby. Now hold up, it's a roller coaster. All these things that I've been doing, opportunities, baby, no one knows it. And I wish I felt the Holy Ghost. It's almost the end after tonight, girl, you know it's over. The sky's falling down, everybody turned up, looking up, think it's God coming down. Everything that I've been doing, so I know that He's not here for me, so I keep on taking the drugs. And I'm not trying to gas you up. We fall in love and we gon' die together. We fall in love and we gon' die together. Yeah. I don't wanna be alone, it's the end of the road. Put me on the road, I'ma finish it, girl. Feel the energy, girl. And if we fall in love, then we gon' die together. We fall in love, then we gon' die together. Yeah. crazy if I say that I'm in love with you. It's something that I never do. Hop in a whip when I pull up on the avenue. I love when I'm inside of you. I pop a couple more, girl, it's something that I gotta do. Yeah, oh yeah. Tell me that you love me, babe. Tell me that you put nothing above me, baby. Tell me all you really wanna do is come and love me, babe. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Now let's get high tonight. Look up to the sky tonight. Don't wanna cry tonight, baby. Holiday tonight. Yeah, and I'm not trying to gas you up. We fall in love and we gon' die together. We fall in love and we gon' die together. Yeah. I don't wanna be alone. It's the end of the world. Never known I'ma finish it, girl. Feel the energy, girl. And if we fall in love, then we gon' die together. We fall in love and we gon' die together. Yeah. Who am I to trust? Tell me, who do I believe in? I feel like giving up. You know I got a reason. Your love, I need it. The drugs, I need it. Your love, I need it. The drugs, I need it. It's you and I, going down by the end, glad do or die. You and I, going down by the end, glad do or die. I don't mean to do you wrong. It's all about the way you make me feel, babe. I wanna be there, you know it's real, babe. Yeah, and I'm not trying to gas you up. We fall in love and we gon' die together. We fall in love and we gon' die together. Yeah, I don't wanna be alone. It's the end of the world. Never known I'ma finish it, girl. Feel the energy, girl. And if we fall in love, then we gon' die together. We fall in love, then we gon' die together. Yeah. Sure, wake up. Sure, go back to sleep. Man, these niggas ain't even what they said they was. Just get the fuck out my brain. Can't even think about it. Everybody tell me that they love me, but it's only when they wanna love me. Then they show their true colors when I'm down, and they mad they get nothing from me. I can see it when you at the sun. Fuck around and tell me I don't really want it. Then they tell me I ain't really on it. Yeah, that's dope that I'm on. Yeah, it's really ballin'.
Gentlemen, we are back here with Jessica Evans, who's been giving us some wonderful and startling and sad insight on the world of human trafficking. Now, we're going to get into the numbers here in Indiana, and even looking at this, honestly, it's really taken me aback. Jessica, talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the world of human trafficking is really hard to measure, and so there are statistics out there, but it's such an underground crime that it's really hard to count. We do know that there were 53 confirmed cases in Indiana just this past year.
Right.
So those are the ones that we know about and have been investigated into. And most of them were sex trafficking cases. We do know that there's labor trafficking that happens here. We do know that men and boys are trafficked as well, but for the most part, it's been young women that we found here in Indiana.
Right. So looking at the statistics, it says 243 calls were made to the hotline in Indiana in 2015. I know it's hard to say what those types of calls are, but for someone who thinks that they may be in a situation that doesn't seem right, and maybe they have a boyfriend or a friend that they're like, they're forcing me to do things that I don't want to do. Let's touch a little bit on that a little bit to let people know what signs to look for and when they should be making a phone call or getting in contact with the authorities.
Yeah. There's a 1-800 hotline or 888 hotline, and community members, victims of human trafficking can call, and it's so important that if you have a suspicion that there is trafficking happening, that you do make that call so that police know to go investigate.
Right.
And some things to look for if you do see that there is a young woman that's being held against her will, or if you know someone that's even living at home, but you just notice a sudden change in behavior, you think they might be sneaking out, you see some marks on them, or if you know someone that's working without getting paid, or even just see on the street someone who seems like they're really controlling over someone and lots of, maybe physical violence, or if you see what you think might be prostitution, but it looks like there's a big age gap and something might not be right. Just
you
always
talked about a class or a course that kind of educates, does it educate those that have been victims, or kind of educate people that need to look for signs, or know, when they should call the authorities, even if it's not them themselves that are the victims, but they see certain signs? Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, the class is called My Life, My Choice, and it was created by survivors of trafficking out of Boston.
Okay.
And it's a 10-week course, and it's designed for girls 14 to 18 who are either at risk for trafficking or have been trafficked.
Okay.
So we have both in our class. Some girls, they're in there just really to prevent themselves or their friends or family from being trafficked, and some just so they won't be re-victimized. But we go through week by week, and we define what is human trafficking. Week 2, we talk about what does pimp recruitment look like, because sometimes these girls don't even know they're being recruited by a pimp, and so that they'll know in the future what red flags to look for, what things that he might be saying or might be doing that really are recruitment techniques that she needs to be aware of.
Something you said that honestly I know some viewers out there may have giggled at when you said pimp recruitment, and people use the term pimp lightly, or they say, oh, you're a pimp, or he's my pimp, but just making it a joke. But there's actually a technique that these men, or sometimes women, we don't know, are doing. Talk a little bit more about that piece of it.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's one of my personal missions. The word pimp has just been glamorized all over the place, and when it really comes down to it, these are people who are selling other people for sex or labor, and they're profiting, and it's exploitation. And so a lot of times they sell these girls what they want. They know if they don't have a dad, they become their daddy. If they are looking for love, they become their boyfriend. If they want clothes and nice things, that's what they give them. And so they just sell them what they want to hear, just to gain their trust, in order for them to say, well, now I need you to do this little thing for me, and if you love me, you'll do this. And then once they do that one thing, then they're caught up in
it goes deeper and
trafficking.
deeper. I'm so glad now at a grown-up age that we can sit here and have this conversation and also educate people out there. What would you say to someone, say if there's a young girl or a young man watching out there, what would you say to them to give them the courage to speak out? Because a lot of times they're afraid they're going to lose the roof over their head, or the food on the table, or the clothes on their back even. What would you say to them to give them the courage to speak out against this horrible crime?
I think first, just know that there are people out there that want to help you, and there are people, when you call that number, when you call the hotline, when you call the police, they're not out to get you, no matter what you've been told. There are people that want to help, and there is a way out. A lot of times they don't believe that there is, or they don't believe anyone wants to help them, or believe that anyone will believe them. But they will, and so to reach out is important.
So we're going to put the hotline number up for you guys. And it's the National Human Trafficking Resource Center hotline, NHTRC. That number is 1-888-373-7888. Again, that number is 1-888-373-7888. And that is the National Human Trafficking Resource Center. Jessica, I just can't thank you enough for coming on the show today and just shedding so much light on the world of human trafficking, what it looks like and what it may not look like, from possessive boyfriend to a father figure. You just never know. That's why it was important to have you on the show today. It was important to play that video for you guys so you can see that it comes in so many different shapes and forms. And we need to educate ourselves. We need to educate young women, young men, even adults, so everybody knows the red flags to look for. I want to give you a chance to, definitely tell people where to find you, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, website, and all that. Phone numbers.
Yeah, so purchase.org is our website. You can find us there. We're on Facebook at Purchased Inc. We're on Instagram at purchased.org. And just if I could say one thing at the end to everybody, I think it's important that everyone knows that they can participate in the solution for human trafficking. It's our responsibility as the community to protect our young women, but also to make those reports and just to be aware of what it is. I think it's going to be a community effort.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
And if you ever need anything, and if there's a way that TSM or the Tahlia Speaks Show can help out with anything, you definitely know how to find me now.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the Tahlia Speaks Show. We'll be back same time next week. Until next time.